Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about 10 everyday household items that have survival uses. Alright everybody, welcome back. So, let's face it, being prepared can be very, very expensive. You may not have purchased everything you need by the time disaster strikes. Well, this is kind of a way for you to be a little more resourceful and use some items that almost everybody has in their home as a survival item. Again, they're not meant to replace things. If you can afford things, by all means, buy the real thing and don't use the substitute. But if you get stuck somewhere outside of your home, say at work or something, and you need to use one of these items, this is a handy way that you could use pretty much any one of these items as a survival item. So, let's dig into the first item, and the first item is going to be garbage bags. Now, in an emergency, many preppers can find numerous uses for garbage bags. They can be alternatives to sealing shelters, fixing tents, creating lean-tos. You can even make shoes, waterproof sleeping areas, or even raincoats with them. Another use for these would be collecting rainwater or storing rainwater. Now, I do suggest that you go with the compactor bags. Not contractor, compactor. You know, the trash compactors that push your trash down? They're extremely thick. They're very, very well made. And they will hold water very well, as opposed to dollar store trash bags that'll just rip and tear the minute you put too much water in there. So one of these rolls of bags can be very lightweight, can easily fit in your backpack, emergency kit, or even in your pocket, and they can be reused and repurposed multiple times with a wide variety of applications. Definitely something to think about there. Next up, aluminum foil. Now, aluminum foil has tons of uses in the survival world. You can use this for a ton of different items. Its durability, malleability, and insulating properties allow it to be shaped into tons of different items. You can make a pot out of this. You can even get a Y-shaped branch, a branch similar to that, and make a pan out of this. So there's a lot you can do with that. You can make a pan, a bowl, all sorts of different ways to use it. You can make an emergency signal because it's very highly reflective. You can use something as simple as a AA battery. It can be used to start a fire. You can just put one end on the other and start a fire with that. Collecting rainwater. Foil can be fashioned kind of in a cylindrical container, and you can collect rainwater in it when the dew falls off in the morning. It also can be used to protect electronics. Aluminum foil is an essential part of making your own DIY Faraday cage. So you can protect electronic devices from unwanted electronic waves using tinfoil. Now, not just tinfoil. I'm not suggesting you wrap up stuff in tinfoil, but if you use an ammo can or something like that, this can be used around the edge to seal it up. So there are tons of uses for this, as well as just plain old preserving food. Definitely handy, bunch of uses on that. All right, next up, we know it, we love it, we can't live without it, duct tape. There are so many things you can do with duct tape. You can fix shoes, clothing. It's got so many different ways. You can repair shelters, waterproof stuff, create tools. You can fix all sorts of stuff with it. Definitely a handy item to have. I recommend the Gorilla tape if you can get it. You can see the logo in there. Really good stuff, really strong. Sticks for a very, very long while. Will even function as a makeshift bandage in an emergency. I know when I chopped up my finger pretty bad, I had a bunch of gauze wrapped around there, holding it, closed with the surgical glue on it, and then I put duct tape over it because I knew I wasn't taking that off for a couple days. I was going to let that heal, and it worked very, very well. All right, next up, hand sanitizer. Now, I'm sure after this pandemic, we all have a ton of this stuff lying around our homes. Let me bring it over here and show you. Now, personal hygiene is often an overlooked aspect of survival. However, something simple as keeping your hands clean might just spell the difference between life or death in emergencies. This is especially true today with the pandemic going on. So it's a perfect answer to the problem of limited access to soap and water during emergencies. But these also can be placed inside your pocket. You can get a little smaller container placed inside your pocket and hang from your bag, whatever, and its composition is mostly alcohol. A lot of the reason we had trouble finding alcohol, rubbing alcohol, after the pandemic kind of waned and back in March, after the chaos kind of settled, is because so many companies had bought it up and were using it to make hand sanitizer. So that's why you couldn't find rubbing alcohol in your store. It is very flammable. You can use it almost like a gel of sorts, and it will definitely get a fire started if you need to. But it's not overly flammable like something like gas that will just explode. This will just light up gently, burn, and you can start a nice fire with it. So it does have a bunch of different uses other than just washing your hands. But hand sanitation is very important, especially in situations like flooding. If you're going to be digging around in dirty water, maybe sewer water, who knows what, you definitely want to keep your hands clean, and you may not have a way to do that with soap and water or clean soap and water. Hand sanitizer will definitely come in handy. So that's why I'm a big fan of that. All right, let's move on to something you may not have thought about, and that's something as simple as dental floss. You know, this probably isn't the first thing that comes to people's minds when you think about a survival item. But it is a very strong thread and has a ton of survival uses. For one, it's an awesome material for making a DIY fishing pole. You can attach some dental floss to a branch, and guess what? You're ready to start reeling in fish from the nearest pond. It's very, very strong. You can use this to fortify, say, your bug out location in home with traps. You know, if you want to strip it across the floor so you have an alarm that goes off when somebody trips it. It has a ton of uses. In a real medical emergency, I am not saying to do this, I'm talking about life or death. It can be used to suture deep cuts, wounds, and injuries such as that, as long as the person is able to receive proper medical attention after. So it does have a ton of survival uses. There are so many things you can do with it. I always suggest taking a roll of this, even if you're not using it for your teeth, and sticking it in your preps. Definitely a handy little item. All right, next up, paper clips. We look at these things as if they're nothing. You know, we see these all day long, and this is a larger one. This is actually off my checkbook that I keep to balance my checkbook. I keep it, you know, up to date with. But these bend very easily, and they're very difficult to break. So this can be twisted into any shape for any purpose you might think of. You can use these to make fishing hooks, you know, lock picks, DIY needles. You can sharpen the ends on it. They have a ton of different uses, as well as just keeping everything organized when it comes to papers. Now, I'm not saying that you don't go out and buy a fishing pole and proper stuff, but with a stick, this, and the clip, you'd be doing pretty good. You'd be able to reel in some fish. So, definitely a bunch of survival uses with that. Let's move on to the last thing. I'm going to kind of move everything a little bit closer so I can get to it, and that's going to be tin cans. Now, what you see in front of you here is a Progresso soup can. Okay, I always say when you're new, when you're just getting started, do some projects. Learn to make stuff out of empty tin cans. One of the projects I did, and I videoed this, gosh, I want to say way back in 2015, is I made this little wood-burning stove. It's a little gasifying wood-burning stove. It is a 2-quart paint can with the bottom cut out and a Progresso soup can. They fit perfectly inside the lip here. They will literally snap into place in a 2-quart paint can. You drill some holes along the top, drill some holes along the bottom for air. This is another air intake. And you got yourself a pretty darn good gasifying stove. I just took some baling wire and put it over the top, and I made myself a stove with it. So cans have a ton of uses. There are tons of different ways to make stuff. You can even boil your soup in the can too as well. Now, I am going to tell you one thing about it. You'll notice here I have a cup that I've made out of a can. I took a piece of wood. I kind of trimmed it with a Dremel tool and made it look pretty. Some wire. And I got the wire all the way around, wrapped it up and tied it, made the edges nice and dull so they don't scratch, took off the edge up here so I don't cut myself, and this is actually a cup, and I've actually boiled in it. You can tell by the little burn marks on the bottom. You can boil water in this. Now, something to think about, I use this now only to store my utensils for videos, and you'll notice on the bottom there's a little bit of rust. I don't know if you can see it. I don't see it in the video and the monitor on the camera, but there is a little bit of rust on the bottom, so you got to keep an eye on that. Mainly this is just for display now. When I did the video, I just used it and burned it a little bit on the bottom, but it still works very well. And when you don't have regular utensils and kitchenware on hand, good old cans can do the job for you very well. All right, let's move on to the next item, and that is going to be bleach. Now, I'm sure everybody's thought of bleach that watching my channel, because I'm sure you guys have been doing this for a while. But good old simple unscented bleach, and none of the thick stuff either. You know, some of that stuff that's, gosh, what do they call it? It's the easy non-splashing bleach, the splash-free type bleach. You want plain old bleach. None of that stuff. Nothing scented, nothing like that. Good old simple bleach has a ton of applications for a prepper. First and foremost, it makes a great disinfectant. That's especially important given the situation we are in today. You can mix a cup of bleach with 5 gallons of water and create a really strong disinfectant solution that can be used to clean your surfaces in your home or your tableware or anything like that. Now, a lot of seasoned preppers also use bleach to purify water and make it drinkable, To do this, you're going to add 6 drops of bleach to a gallon of water, mix and allow to sit for 30 minutes before drinking. Very, very easy solution to what could be a very, very dangerous problem. The last item I'm going to bring out front here, and I'll bring you back when I do it. Actually, it's the last 2 items. Now, the first one is going to be salt, okay? The food you captured on your homemade fishing rod or trap you fashioned from dental floss or paper clips will last a whole lot longer if you rub some salt and store it in brine. For medication, salt can also be used as an antiseptic. Gargling salt water is a tried and tested solution for treating sore throats and mouth infections for years. During the winter, salt can also be used to melt snow, add some traction to slippery surfaces. On metallic surfaces like cookware, it can help remove rust and create a non-stick surface that's perfect for cooking. So we get back to our homemade cup there, you can remove rust with salt. So salt is a very handy item, both for food storage and everyday use. Last item up, okay, this is number 10, and that's coffee filters. Now, coffee filters make a great alternative to disposable plates and bowls. In an emergency, they can be used as a substitute for toilet paper, even a makeshift bandage that can stop bleeding. As you can tell here, these are those V-shaped coffee filters, not the traditional shape. You could easily stick some food in here, nothing too messy, not soup, and you could use it as a bowl. Maybe some Chef Boyardee ravioli or something like that. Might be a little messy, but it sure beats eating that out of the can. They can be used as a makeshift bandage. You have to remember that they are made to filter water, not control bleeding. So you may get a little messy using these, but they're better than nothing. And to control bleeding, strapping that over a cut will definitely soak up the blood and make it a very effective bandage. Now, of course, coffee filters were primarily designed for filtering water. If you use it for this purpose, make sure you boil your water after filtering. The filter will separate the solids from the water, but boiling will keep the harmful microorganisms out of it. So, those are 10 items that you might find around your house that you could use for survival preps, survival projects. I had a blast making that little tin in that stove, and did I need it? No, I have tons of stoves. But it was good to test my skills, and that is what I'm talking about when I say test your skills regularly. Even building something, using your brain, thinking things out. Very handy when it comes to survival. And these are all items that are in everybody's house almost. Now, am I saying don't go out and buy a cook kit because I can always make this with a branch and a Y-shaped branch and make a pan? No, of course not. But if you're stuck somewhere where you don't have access to your survival items, maybe you're stuck at the office during an emergency and you have nothing to cook in. Well, there you go. You got a way to do it. So, that is 10 everyday household items with survival uses. Common things you find around the house. If you can think of other stuff, feel free to edit in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. And don't forget to check out our links down below. We have our Amazon store down there. That is our Amazon affiliate store where I put all of the items, or most of the items I review in there. We have our freeze-dried wholesalers link. If you want to save 15%, all you have to do is click that link and you will save 15% on your order. Now is the time to get stocked up on food, folks. And talking about that, we have our My Patriot Supply link down there. Lots of bulk deals there. The address for that is preparewithiridium.com, preparewithiridium.com, and our Thrive Life freeze-dried food store as well. I thank you folks for watching. Keep your mind going when you're thinking about survival. Stay safe and stay prepared.